This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. John, good to see you this morning. Thank you for being with us.
Always a pleasure, Roby.
On Friday, we got the reversal of the landmark Roe v. Wade decision. The Dobbs decision comes down from the U.S. Supreme Court. We were anticipating this because of the leaked memo a few weeks ago. It still felt like an atomic bomb went off in Washington, D.C. and across this nation. Kind of give me your perspective on what you've been synthesizing from all of the different perspectives that are out there on this issue.
Well, generally, it's that we were prepared for this. We knew it was going to happen. We thought we were, those who were worried about it were resigned to it, to its happening. But it's the same old story. You can know something's going to happen, but when something actually happens as seismic as this, it entirely changes the dynamic. I had a nonsensical paragraph in a column weeks ago saying our politics is so divisive and polarized in large part because of the federal divisiveness of the abortion issue. And maybe after this ruling, when the states can do it themselves, then everybody at least will be living close, majorities of people will be living close to the policy in their state they can live with, and maybe we can turn our attention in certain areas to other things. Well, that was crazy. You know, it just was. I don't know what happened to my brain that day, but maybe it's because I was thinking in the abstract. Now the issue is we're going to have just as big a fight fought on more levels, closer to home, over what does this ruling mean and how do states deal with it? Do you have the states that outlaw abortion, do they permit rape and incest exceptions? What about doctors' authorities to deal with miscarriages? What about the morning after pill and IUDs? Is that contraception, as Governor Hutchinson seemed to think yesterday, or can it be defined as abortion? What about services to keep registries of people in a state with a ban who seek and need abortions, and to get them referred to, maybe even paid to transfer them to the nearest state that permits them, which in Arkansas's case, I guess, would be Illinois? Or will states pass provisions saying travel, constitutionally dubious, probably, laws saying you can't travel for an abortion. You can't assist a girl or woman to travel. Those things will be proposed by right-wing legislatures like ours. We're going to have more fights on more gritty detail, in more venues, on more fronts than we thought before. The enforcement shakeout of this is going to, I think, heighten the political polarization rather than reduce it. And you know, I think I'll just say this. Legally, as a judge reading the Constitution, I can, and forgive me, my friends on the left, I can see the reasoning. I can see a simple judge's legal interpretation. You know, there is nothing in the Constitution that establishes a federal right to a thing called privacy that would apply in this way. I mean, I can get that. But and leave this to the politicians and to the states. But what I'm sensing now, what I'm understanding more clearly than ever, is that Roe v. Wade and the way we were doing it had a lot of practical virtue. It granted this right, but as science was advancing, as politics changed, we were steadily restricting it while allowing it generally allowing it to continue on a steadily restricted or more closely defined basis. I think many of us will be longing for that very soon. So the legal argument I get, but the practical effect is highly disruptive to the political culture, to the social culture, not to mention to women and girls. So that's how I read it all.
So is this effectively returns the decision making to the states? Arkansas has this trigger law that has already gone into effect. Other states have got similar things. Other states will deal with this in their own way. What is your sense of what will happen if Republicans take over majorities in Congress and or win the presidency in 2024? Do you think that they will push for a national ban on abortion?
Yes, Vice President Pence is making that a centerpiece of his campaign for president.
That's a contradiction of the Supreme Court decision here, handing it back to the states.
I know, but I know it is. And here's what's going to happen. Yeah, they're going to pass it. I think they will. I think they're going to, unless the reaction among women, suburban women, swing voters is so strong against the overreach of this ruling. Every indication is that the Republicans are going to win back the Congress, and I think they'll pass it. Constitutionality be damned. They're gonna pass it. It's and they're gonna probably do that politically while counting on the courts to enjoin it so we can litigate it. But if they pass it, they got to get Biden's signature, and then they have to get an extra majority, supermajority to veto. So this increased this less volatile period that I once envisioned in a misbegotten paragraph was totally wrong. It's going to be the exact opposite, both on the state level and I think on the federal level, with new rounds of multiple lawsuits, multiple appeals to the appeals, and political fights that will just be ongoing federally and in the states. So yeah, that's what I think. That's what we have in store.
Another Supreme Court ruling that very overshadowed by the fact that the Dobbs decision came down on Friday dealt with guns. There was the Supreme Court struck down a New York law that has been on the books for, I think, nearly 100 years, dealing with the ability to get a handgun for personal protection, a concealed carry weapon. Does that just get lost in the shuffle? Because we're in the middle of this national gun debate too, which is another extremely divisive debate in the union here, and yet I don't even think we're going to be talking about that one.
Well, we haven't much since Friday, and that's part of our short attention span. It's part of the way our news cycle works. It's part that telling women across the country that their rights over their own bodies is a bigger deal than a New York case about what you have to do to get it to do concealed carry. Many people have cited, have compared these two things or put these two issues together and said this Supreme Court is saying states can't do a thing to restrict your right to carry a firearm, but they can. But the same Supreme Court says they're now in charge of a woman's body and decisions there. They see irony and contradiction and tragedy in that. The counter argument, what the conservative view is, well, there's nothing in the Bill of Rights. There's no Second Amendment for abortion. That's the difference. Which there is no constitutional provision if the Supreme Court says there isn't. So, but the gun issue is largely relegated now, but the commentary I do see about it is fueling. There's incredible anger out there with women and people on the left, and they cite this as just an example of the absurd, purely political inconsistency of Republican and Supreme Court behavior on this issue. And there you go. It's just another part of the tinderbox that this country now is.
How worried are you about how tender this tinderbox is? Do you see something? You lived through the 60s. Do you see something as explosive as the 60s in terms of social unrest coming?
Yes, I do. I think so. I think so. This is just very basic about where you stand, and it's hard to get in the middle on this issue. Asa Hutchinson tried to do a thing on Meet the Press yesterday, his weekly appearance, in which he wanted to sort of finesse it and say it's great, this ruling we've always wanted, but now a national ban on abortion. I'm not. He tried to finesse the particulars that I've been talking about the provisions of state laws that we'll see, and I thought he sort of he had a very bad morning. It's you can't sidestep your way around this issue. And so far, people are just angry and protesting, and there's no great outpouring of destruction or violence. But I think emotions are every bit as strong now, if not in some ways, with some people, much stronger than in the 60s.
All right. Lastly, it seems almost demure now, but we had some runoff elections last week in Arkansas, and one of the big ones that was decided was over in Northwest Arkansas State Senate seat. Bob Ballinger replaced by former State Senator Brian King, who State Senator Bob Ballinger beat originally.
Mm-hmm.
So we go back and forth on that seat here. What does Brian King coming back to the Senate and Bob Ballinger exiting the Senate signal to you?
Irony, incredible. I love irony.
And column fodder, John. Column fodder.
Yeah. Here's. Let me just tell it as quickly as I can. Ballinger was an extreme right, Trent Garner allied Republican legislator whom Governor Hutchinson and the establishment leadership of the legislature thought to be destructive, and they wanted them replaced not with anyone not conservative, but they kind of wanted rid of that divisive, destructive, what they saw force. And Ballinger, a lot of your establishment Republicans, establishment business community, and certainly people on the left saying we got to get rid of Ballinger. A couple of conventional Chamber of Commerce type Republicans, at least one ran and finished fourth in the first go round. The runoff turned out to be Ballinger and Brian King. Now here's Brian King. to elect him to replace a guy who offends the establishment is not just ironic; it's hilariously so. Brian King is not overtly as socially conservative as Ballinger, but he's of this cussed independent cowboy conservative variety that's also unpredictable. Part of his conservatism is he doesn't like the lobbyists in the business community. And I will tell you, to replace an anti-establishment senator like Ballinger with King, you need to keep in mind that we would have referred, the legislature, the state senate, would have referred tort reform, so-called tort reform, legal reform, limiting what juries can do, which is the one thing the business community of the state wants more than anything else, except for the fact that Brian King so resented the lobbyist tactics on it when he was in the Senate that his vote kept that from happening. So be careful what you wish for is maybe the message here. I get a kick out of Brian King. There's a place where some left of center thinking can meet almost the independent anti-establishment cowboy conservatism, as I call it. And he and I have almost met at a time or two, but it always breaks down. But it's he's of this. He and Stubblefield, Senator Stubblefield, they call themselves Captain Call and Captain McCrae from Lonesome Dove. You know, that's their deal, and it will be a different kind of Senate, but it's not going to be a reliable or predictable Senate where Brian King is concerned. So, and King is in the campaign seemed to ally with the Conduit for America, whatever that is, which is very right wing. So that one is just classic, contradictory, ironic, mystifying Arkansas politics.
Where is the late, great George Fisher when you need an editorial cartoon done to put all of this in context? He would have been the guy to do it. Could you imagine when he hard rest home would look like now?
Yeah, yeah. We can only wish. We can only wish.
All right, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Thank you as always, my friend.
Okay, Robbie. Take care. Bye-bye.